Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Weyandt, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Paul Hedgepath. He's a national leader in construction technology at MJ Harris with over 25 years of experience transforming the way we build. From pioneering BIM and reality capture to driving AI adoption on job sites, Paul's work spans 100 plus projects across sectors like healthcare, aviation, and education, bridging innovation and impact across the industry. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, excited for the conversations. To begin, let's kind of set the stage. How'd you get into the world of construction?
Well, I started out in the world of architecture, so as early as I would say 10th grade, doing drafting classes at a trade school,
Yeah.
3 hours a day, getting on a bus,
Well,
going out there with those guys, and then ended up going and working for an architect after school as a draftsman. That led on to me getting a 2-year associate's degree in architectural drafting, and I worked full time through that. And then I stayed on there, I would say, probably a year or two after, before I went on to Auburn into architecture school. But once I went to Auburn, I quickly realized that I was a draftsman and not an architect, not creative enough to really be an architect. And so I didn't even know about building science at the time, that was even a major. And I think that's one thing, even say 20 years later, that we're still trying to overcome in our industry, that there is a profession you can go out and you can go and be a professional in the construction industry, not necessarily swinging a hammer or which is valuable as well with skilled trades, but really that is a career path, right? So I found out about that, and I switched majors, and I still stayed within the some architectural electives with 3D modeling and other things. And I worked while I was in building science at a design build company, still doing some modeling and drafting as well. But it really felt like a better fit. So once I switched over to building science, I started interning with general contractors. And then eventually after that, once I graduated, I went to Holder Construction. And at the time, this was about 2005, there really BIM or construction technology really wasn't a thing. So started out in pre-construction, but then went on over into the new VDC department with a couple other guys, and we helped start that up and get that going. And then after that, I went on to J Dunn Construction as the regional director for a little bit. And then I've been at MJ Harris Construction as the national director for almost 14 years. So about 20
nice.
years of going from Holder to where I am now. And there's been a lot of changes over those years in terms of what construction technology is and how we really implement it. But it's been exciting going through that whole journey.
Yeah, I bet. So we'll dive into the tech here in a minute, but I want to circle back to one of the things that you said during your story of trying to get the word out. It's just an area that we talk a lot about on the podcast is kind of how do we go about as an industry changing the perception of what it means to be in construction? Any kind of insights or advice on how to go about that to really bring the reality of what construction is to the audience at large?
I know that Auburn reaches out to high schools and starts educating them, and they actually have some programs where they'll bring high school students in and tell them about what the program really is and how it works. Another thing that I think really helps with that outreach is technology. When some kids see a spot dog with a laser scanner on it or anything like that, and that's one of the big draws of Spot. Auburn owns one, and they bring it out for recruiting because
Yeah,
it's
that's
exciting.
cool.
It's something they're like, how is this even associated with construction? It's what people
Right.
would think. So, well, hey, there's technology in construction too, and it's something that you could do too. So the more I can get the word out, I lecture a lot at Auburn already, but those guys are already in the construction school. But also try to, I know we've brought Spot over to my daughter's elementary school just to show them that, just getting things out there in the field. And I know AGC and the ABC have programs to really start to educate younger people about construction as well. I'm on the ABC Tech Committee. I'm going to be chair of that committee in January, and that's one of our things as far as getting the information out there and really educating the public. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's shift into the tech side of things. So the
yeah.
last 20 years have It's been a monumental shift in construction in the terms of technology, especially even the last 5 years have been a
Yeah.
major hockey stick curve in tech adoption. What are some things that you've noticed have been kind of the biggest catalyst of those changes?
I think the need from the field, there's problems as far as uh, eh, being productive and getting our production up, labor shortages. There's lots of needs in our industry, and then the tech has kind of risen up to fill those needs. We we built a I'd say 425,000 square foot hospital in 10 months because there was a need. We had to get it done that fast. And this was back in 2012, and we introduced plans on iPads because so many design revisions were coming out. And back then it was Vela, and then it went to Plan Grid that we used, and now Procore. But a simple thing as an iPad back then was new for us, but we needed it, and it enabled us to build faster and help us. Now, I would think another thing is going to be virtual design and construction, and just the ability to plan ahead of time, so we're more efficient in the field. So through that need, technology has kind of answered the call. Reality capture, you could say the same thing. And now with AI, this is the next big thing, bigger than anything I've ever done in 20 years. And it's going to really help our production, I believe.
Yeah. So, the thing that comes along with technology adoption that maybe gets overlooked sometimes is you have to have the right culture in place in order for tech to take off at your firm. You can't just throw technology at a problem and think it's magically going to fix everything. How have you gone
Yeah.
about helping to shape a culture to really embrace construction technology and bring that innovation as part of really a daily mindset?
I think to really shape a culture, you have to get feedback, right? So seeing what people's problems are and then doing it yourself. So
Mhm.
for instance, we deployed 360 photos in 2017 with Struction Site that's now drone deployed ground. And at the time, we had an issue. It was a problem that the field needed more photos taken. And we weren't able to do this. You take a picture with a digital camera of a door, and you had no idea where the door was. And you've got 400 doors on a job. And we also need to track our production as well as things that got covered up within a wall or in a slab to make sure that it was, if we ever had to go back, that it was installed correctly. So I went in there and started doing it myself, right? Got the license and started walking these jobs and doing it and then showing the results. So I think you have to have the ability to walk the walk if you're a technology guy and get out there and get boots on the ground and really show people the value. And then as I started doing that myself, we started saying, yeah, this is value, and it gained momentum. And now we do it on all our jobs. And it's one of our most valuable tech tools that has a very low lift, right? Because we're able to deploy a 360 camera, $400, and then we've got this enterprise solution, and I can train anybody on drone deploy ground in probably 15 minutes, right? So none of that would have happened if I hadn't gone out there and done it myself, though, and really got it going, and then gotten the feedback from the guys on what works, what doesn't, and how it's going to benefit the job.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the aspect of going in, rolling up your sleeves, not being afraid to get dirty and messy on the job site to help build that credibility and trust with the
Yeah,
field so that you're not just coming in and saying, I know better than you, but you're actually
yeah. I'm the
there
office
figuring out
guy.
problems.
Do this.
Yeah,
I'm going to come back
exactly.
and check on you in a month. Yeah, that's definitely got to be part of the team to make that successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's dive into AI because in that area, again, you're not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. How are you actually implementing AI on job sites right now?
So I'm going to try to not sound like a fanboy when I talk about this, but it's probably going to happen anyway because it excites me more than anything.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just the fact that it's changing so rapidly and improving so much. And I lecture at Auburn a lot, and I have a whole section on AI with my construction technology lectures. And I think the application is the key right now, and that's one thing I'm doing. We're deploying it on jobs. Agentic AI, we're using Data Grid. They seem to be the best solution for us, and we're able to build out agents based on the needs from the field. So I'll sit down with the assistant project manager in the field, drive to their job site. One is going to be here in Tuscaloosa. We have a $140 million job down there. And so sitting down and saying, hey, I know you do submittals all day long, right? You're checking submittals. Let me show you what the submittal agent can do and give me feedback on that. Does this look like something that's good? And this is something I'm building out, through custom text and then working with Data Grid to refine it and figuring out what will be the best solution to save them time to where when they get a submittal in, it's automatically checking the specifications. It's automatically cross-checking it with other submittals and drawings and other things that they have to do all day long. It's shortening that period. Same thing with RFIs or checking the risk in a schedule right before our biweekly scheduling meeting. So what I'm trying to do is the things that we do all the time, the things that take away from our guys' time to where they could be adding quality in other areas, we're allowing agentic AI to do that through customized agents, and it's been great. And what's surprising about agentic AI is Data Grid has all these connectors and it does everything that you want to do, and they've built it out. But when you have a base model that gets improved by, say, like a Gemini 2.5 that comes out, or something that comes out that runs on that Data Grid runs on, it instantly improves everything about it. So if you think about a SaaS software, and Procore is fantastic, they're SaaS based, and there's other SaaS softwares out there. They have to have developers that are building out things. They may take months. So we can suggest things through portals and things on those types of software. Say, hey, I need an improvement. Well, they're not going to instantly build it out, and you're not going to have that improvement the next day. Or alternatively, you're not going to be able to, say, Procore, for example, you're not going to be able to build your own observations tool right now anyway, right?
Mhm.
Instantly. But with Data Grid, you could do that. You can build any tool you want to do whatever you want based on it, custom agents. And that's kind of what sets it apart. And that's what I think there's going to be a fundamental shift from SaaS to agentic software, where everything's at eventually. And it's probably going to be faster than we think.
Yeah. What's the reaction like when you sit down with people on the field and are showing them the AI tool? Are they kind of leery and cautious at first, or are they kind of jumping in saying, "Oh, this is really cool. Let's try this and this and this."
It's the same reaction that BIM got 20 years ago. They're like, well, I think I need it. I'm not sure. Right. But once you show them, and once you, like, if you fix a problem in BIM, you say, look at what I just fixed. What's what we call, then it's like, oh man, that would have been a big deal. And then you get those incremental steps of acceptance. Most construction folks are like that. You got to kind of show them something and show them the value before they're really going to buy in. So once that AI finds something and checks something in 1 second that would have taken the assistant PM or PM 30 minutes,
Mhm.
then you get that buy-in. Then you slowly get the adoption going. And depending on how cool the thing is it finds, that speeds up that adoption. So there's been some wins. There's been some challenges with everything, because you are building out an agent, so you're not just a programmer anymore. You're almost like a human resources person. You're training a thing that's kind of like a person to act like a person, but it's still a computer. But it's a lot faster than I thought it would be. And the from 1 week to the next, it's just amazing what it's able to do. And it's not the fact that um, in general the programming of it, it's the fact that you got to make sure it's what the person needs, and it's addressing their exact, it's a custom thing to address that person's pain points. But
Mhm.
then when it happens, it's beautiful, and it just helps, helps tremendously, and it's pretty amazing still, even though I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah. Well, attaching it to the pain points. I mean, that's the key there. Instead of
Yeah.
just using AI for AI's sake, you're figuring out what are the real world pain points and trying to stick AI on that. And that's where the beauty comes in.
Yeah, I agree.
So we often hear, AI is really only as good as the question that you ask it. What was the learning curve in figuring out how to prompt the AI correctly to be able to find the data that you want?
Trial and error, right? So we ask it one question, and then it'll give us the answers based on that specific question. But then you say, well, I framed it this way, so let me ask it a different way. But the key in agentic AI is to make it to where anyone could ask anything, and it kind of gives the answer you want, right?
Mhm.
So that's part of the trial and error, is saying, all right, well, maybe I'm going to ask it something not so specific, but it's still going to generate the stuff I need. And you can change that through your custom agent, right? And through the language programming on it. So that's kind of how we've approached it. Yeah.
Yeah. How have you approached and handle aligning the AI outputs with those real world field efficiency? Any kind of example of a well crafted prompt that helped save time and solved a challenge there?
Well, one is asking for feedback from the guys, right? So saying, does this make sense? I could say some of the things. Maybe there's a waterproofing example where we were in the field and we had to check to see if some tape needed to be on a corner beneath some waterproofing. Well, the normal way you would do that is you would have to go in, you'd have to find the submittal, you'd have to look at the specs, you'd have to look at a lot of different documents and then figure that out. But by texting the AI on your phone, and then it can pull all that stuff up for you. So you can say, "Hey, does this need to have water? Does this need to have tape below the waterproofing?" And then it'll answer instantly, "Yes." And here are the documents that back that up. So anytime that an AI can answer you, but then also give you the backup to where you can trust it a little bit more, that's always a good thing. So there's like one example. I think another example would be we've had things where, and this was just yesterday, where it's a cross submittal checker to where the engineer has given comments back on a certain submittal, and then it says, "Here's the engineer's comments. I recommend that you would have to do these things to address those comments." And then it would give those specific things. I wish I had a whole list of those things out. I could pull up Data Grid right now and read them off, but it's the fact that it's suggesting things to meet the engineer's requirements through the documentation, which is, I mean, it's pulling it from other documentation, and that's a pretty powerful thing.
Right. I imagine too that it's starting to, when you say suggesting things, of it's bringing up things to light that you're like, I didn't make that connection yet. That's a really good thing. Let me go down and explore this and
Hmm.
go down that avenue. One of the things that can seem threatening, I think, on the surface when it comes to AI is the whole argument of AI is going to take my job, and why am I going to train it to do what I'm doing right now? That's my power to it. What's kind of
Yeah,
your response and maybe encouragement to people that AI is a powerful tool, but not necessarily coming for your job?
I think it's the same as any other technology that we've seen in the history. Not of course, it's 100 times more powerful, but the mindset of, I believe people would think the same about the internet or email or anything is, oh, well, this is going to make my job because it's making your job easier. People tend to think that it's going to take their job. Now, I can understand because it's starting to answer questions and think and that type of thing that it is going to replace some jobs. I don't think in our industry that is the case though, because we're a very visual industry, a very involved industry with a lot of moving pieces and parts. It's just going to make us more productive to where we generate a better product and that we're able to provide a better service for our owners. I think people that use AI are going to replace people that don't. And whenever I lecture and students ask me that question that you just asked me, that's what I say. So it's almost like you don't have a choice, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
careers and degree programs being developed on how to ask AI the right questions now, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of mind blowing. That's a whole career and pathway in and of itself, and it's a lucrative career pathway now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got kids and start to talk to them about AI and said, hey, this is probably going to be a whole path for lots of people once you go to college and among other things, the future is unrecognizable right now. From I mean, it's only been 3 or 4 years that we've been on this AI journey to where it's really started to pick up speed, and it's totally different than it was in the beginning, right? So it's
For
going to
sure. Yeah,
be a
lots of movement
big journey.
already.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Have you ever seen the Will Smith spaghetti thing, the video? You got to look it
no,
up. So there's
no,
one
I'll have
where
to check it
they
out.
yeah, where he was eating spaghetti, right?
Yeah,
And initially, and it was crazy looking because it was one of the first video generations through AI, and now the new one, and it looks like real Will Smith. And so that's a silly example, but that just shows you in the span of time in 3 or 4 years, it shows you visually, right,
yeah,
what is happening with
yeah.
it. So
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, the you talk about like deep fakes and stuff. The deep fakes
yeah,
that are out there now are so incredibly accurate. It's really hard to spot, which brings up a whole, other rabbit trail of
yeah.
conversation for sure of
Yeah.
what do you do
We
with
need a
that?
lot longer, a lot more time.
Right.
We will start talking about
Yeah.
all that. Those are
But it's
cool
a
conversations though, but it's also a little scary. But I mean, I think AI and all the things that go along with it, it's going to be fine as long as the people using it are responsible and that all these big corporations that are using it are responsible. I mean, that's one thing that I know has been a big topic of discussion as well is how we responsibly use all this new power that we're giving ourselves.
right. Yeah, and what does that look like and who gets to decide
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
responsible looks like is all
Yeah.
big, hotly debated
What
questions
version of
for sure.
responsible are you talking about?
That's right. That's right. I want to shift into the training aspect of it because that's a huge role for success. How does effective AI training, what does that look like for field teams, and as you scale across multiple projects, how do you guys go about handling that factor of it?
one thing you'd have to do in terms of effective AI training is you need to simplify it, right? So there's ways where you can deploy an agent and have all these different types of agents and say, oh, here's all these things that do all these different things, and then get someone can get bogged down in the responses and the prompts. So the way to really introduce an agent is to have even a one pager, right? Say, this agent does this. This is what the purpose is of it. Here's a few examples of some of the feedback it can give. Here's what it doesn't do right now. And then when they have that as a document, construction people like documents and agendas and that kind of stuff. When they have that, and then you say, this is what we're going to talk about. And then you can start going through some real world scenarios. But it's great to get that feedback early before you actually have a meeting about the agent saying, hey, what are your pain points? What are some of the open submittals you have right now? What are some RFIs that you're processing right now that you would need answers on? And so you can use those in the examples in the training. So where it's not so theoretical, it's actually their job, their information, and and then a clear, short description of what you're going to talk about.
Mhm.
So it stays on track because it's easy to go down the AI rabbit hole because this thing will do everything and it'll answer all the stuff. And some of the answers are good, some of the answers still need to be worked on. But if you jump down a rabbit hole and start confusing somebody with any type of software, then you're going to lose them. So so keeping it to the point and on track and with a clear agenda is key in training anything. And
Yeah. No, I think that's smart. Putting up the uh, not necessarily guardrails per se, but like the train tracks of what is most productive in this tool and how to take advantage of that. I think that's smart with any technology. To your point, to have that up.
could you think
Yeah.
about 360 photos? It does one thing, right? And then you're done with the training. It does several things, and they actually use AI now, drone deploy ground, and a lot of awesome stuff. But there's a clear path to what it does.
Right.
With AI, it's kind of like, what do you want?
Right.
And yeah, you
It's
gotta
anything you can
don't
think
make
of.
it so open ended, even though it is, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then you get the paralysis feeling of like I don't even know where to start on it.
yeah.
Is too
That's it's
much.
very easy to happen. So.
Yeah, for sure. So this is kind of a impossible question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So there's been so much change in the last 3 years, as you mentioned, with AI. What do you think we go forward 3 years? What is AI in construction look like? How have we changed and evolved even in that kind of short amount of time span?
I think in 3 years, the base models that were all these different programs like Data Grid are running off of are going to be so sophisticated that when we ask it something, it's going to always give us the right answer. I think it's going to be at that point. And I think we're going to have the agents built out so well that we won't have to do so many custom agents anymore. Like there will be a formula for RFIs, which there kind of is now, but there'll be a perfect formula and a perfect formula for submittals and a perfect formula for checking drawings, especially visual checking of drawings and differences and all these other things where AI is still evolving. Those different things are all going to be solved. And then there's going to be a connection between the field and the office that you've never seen before through AI. And that BIM has not brought us, that nothing has brought us. AI is going to bring us there to where you're going to have instant information, instant feedback, and the exchange of information is going to be so fast that the whole I'm waiting on this RFI or I'm waiting on submittal, I think that's going to almost go away. And we're going to start really seeing the production of construction improve by 10, 100 fold. That's my
Yeah,
prediction anyway.
yeah, that'd be pretty dramatic on timelines for sure.
Yeah, I think
I'll
it's
take that down a
hey,
lot.
I'm very optimistic, like I said.
Yeah,
So,
I like
but
it.
I think just because of what we've seen in just the past 3 years, I think that is a very real possibility. And maybe we'll come back on this podcast 3 years from now, and I can be like, hey, you were right, or hey, I wasn't quite right, but we're getting close. But I think it's a great milestone to achieve, and I think it's something that's coming faster than we think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're far off at all because you look back on the last couple of years, it's mind blowing. I
Yeah.
remember having conversations 3 4 years ago of like AI is coming, but it's probably another 5 years before it really hits critical mass, and we've already hit critical mass for sure. People really starting to implement it and getting comfortable with it and starting to take off with it. So it's a wild ride, but it's
If you look at the benchmarks, one of the things when I lecture is I have a slide about benchmarks, and it's kind of old now because it's 3.5 ChatGPT 3.5 to 4. There was I think it was 10 months between those two versions, and the benchmarks, some of the tests. One of them was the bar exam, and it talks about a 20% pass rate with 3.5, and then a 90% pass rate with 4 in 10 months. And so when the kids see that, they're like, "Wow." And I said, "Hey, this is a long time ago. This was a few years ago. Just imagine, there's no way to measure the improvements of these different models that are coming out."
Yeah. No, it's very cool. So as we start to kind of wrap up here, a couple rapid fire questions for you. First, what is the phrase modeling the future? What does that kind of mean and look like to you?
I'm a BIM guy, so the first thing I think of is a 3D model. Well, I'm a original BIM guy, but modeling the future uh, in general with AI and everything else that's coming out, I would say it's just setting a basis for what our future is going to be, and construction specifically, and whether it be with data, with AI, or 3D, or augmented reality, or anything. So that's a very nerdy answer, but anytime you say model, that's kind of
That's all right.
where
You're
it
the
goes.
BIM guy you expected, right? So the podcast we talk a lot about innovation and cool innovative things. What does innovation mean to you?
I think innovation means the ability to change with excitement, and the ability to make people's lives better. Because anytime I hear the word innovative, I get excited about it, right? I'm like, oh, that's innovative. That's something not just cool, but something that I want to be invested in, and have an interest in. So innovation is always a positive thing to me, and it's something that improves people's lives.
Nice. How do people find out more information and connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. If you want to learn more about MJ Harris Construction, we build all over the country, everywhere, and all types of jobs. MJHarris.com. But then if you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can definitely reach out there. Also, Paul H at mjharris.com. Feel free to email me. I'm happy to talk about technology, and I think one of the reasons these podcasts are so great is I can talk about what I've done, but also I can get feedback from other people that may have watched it and say, "Hey, I heard about what you did. This is what I'm doing," and I can learn from them as well. So I definitely encourage people to reach out, because that's something I love to do, is exchange ideas and learn from what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. Love that. Well, so final question for you, Paul. If I could give you all construction power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing about construction, what would you pick to innovate?
The the designers and the general contractors all being as one, and then having a perfect design that's easily built on time and under budget.
Yeah. Nice. Why can't we be
So
friends?
why can't we be friends? We have some great design partners, but going back to that master builder mindset of where everything just works, and we can just be involved early on without having to have IPD or other types of contracts, just having everything as a perfect deliverable method. Might not have BIM anymore, so maybe I shouldn't wish for that. But at the same time, maybe the BIM happens early on, during the schematic phase. So yeah, that would be a great thing to happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Paul, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us today. It was a really fun
All right.
conversation.
All right. Thank you.
And now it's time for my Todd takes from this episode. First take. Adopting construction technology isn't just about the tools. It's about building a culture that trusts innovation. By getting hands-on, showing results, and addressing real field problems, tech leaders can build credibility and foster meaningful buy-in from teams on the ground. Second take, AI isn't just a buzzword anymore. Teams are actively using smart assistants to review submittals, flag schedule risk, and cross-check documents, saving time and reducing rework. It's about aligning AI with real tasks, not just theoretical use cases. And finally, rolling out new tech, especially AI, requires thoughtful training. That means using real world examples, simplifying workflows, and giving teams just what they need to succeed without overwhelming them. A one pager and clear pain point examples go a long way towards making AI stick.